Mm-hmm. Yep. The world has officially become a nutbag. Mm-hmm. Well, what do we say about that? Well, the world has become a full nutty bag, full nuts. Yep. Insane. I was like, okay, this is next level now. They shut down Canada. Can't go in through the border anymore. I knew I felt you on the wind, and the wind blows. Feel it on the wind. Feel it deep down in my folks' soul. Whoa. The world needs a champion. Yeah. In a troubled land. Whoa. Need the heart of a champion. Wait by the riverside. Way down by the riverside. For the heart of a champion. The heart of a champion. Heart of a champion. Well, I'm not gonna buy the fear you're selling, you know. Yeah. I choose a folk soul all the way. Yeah. Yep. So I'm going to read and concentrate on that and not being scared of everything in the entire world. We'll see what happens and where this goes, but I don't think I've seen it this serious ever. Not this serious. So they must really be pushing. You know, somebody's pushing. They were looking into a circular room, walled off by the cylinder of clear glass. The ceiling was a circle of white light that flooded the space with an icy glow. From various devices fixed in this bright ceiling were suspended a bewildering array of instruments and cables, branching limbs of metal, flexing tubes of some clear material through which liquids of various hues flowed. Together, they formed a complex interlace, web of word, as they ran together at a central point. And there, enmeshed in the tangled net, like an immense spider in its web, was hung suspended the figure of a man. It was difficult at first for Bress and Ruidon to even recognize that the thing before them was a man. It hung in a prone position, arms and legs spread-eagled. It was very like a spider. The body was encased in an armor-like shell, shaped like the insect's bloated body. The protruding limbs were spindly, knobbly, jointed bones covered with a mottled gray-white skin. The many devices suspended about the form all seemed attached by cables in the clear tubes. Some even penetrated the flesh of the wasted limbs like the suckers of some mechanical parasite. Only the movement of the liquid within the tubes showed that it was entering his body, not being drained out. The head of the being was suspended in a soft mesh cradle. It appeared to be little more than a skull, long, narrow, and high-domed. The flesh beneath the surface of the stretched, dry skin was melted away, leaving the slender nose, long chin, and high cheekbones to jut up sharply, painfully, as if they would tear through. Where the eyes should have been, there were sunken pits, black depressions, surrounded by crinkled folds of scar tissue. From these caverns into the depths of the skull, objects like some kind of tuberous plant seemed to grow. They filled the deep sockets, bulging outward beyond the bony ridges of the hairless brow, then tapered down to thin, stalk-like cables that coiled upward to holes in the white ceiling. To Bress and Ruidon, it seemed impossible that this was a living thing. But once again, Valor's hand moved upon the panel. This time a light appeared in a device beside the awful head, and a low chime sounded from inside the cylinder. The head shifted. With an enormous effort, it rolled toward them. As it did, a device suspended beside it rotated too, and a small circle of light set in one end, glowing greenly like a cat's eye in the dark, fixed on them. Immediately, a square panel filling half the outer wall beyond the glass cylinder came to life. What had been darkness now filled with a hazy light. Like mist before the sun, it brightened, and then it began to fill with shadows. They took on color and firmer shape, grew clearer but still uneven, like the images reflected in a wind-rippled pool. At times, a greater disturbance washed through it, but still, the figures that finally appeared in the lighted square were recognizable. They were a black giant with a slit of blazing eye and two men, pale-faced, expressions frozen with amazement. "Why, that's us," Bress gasped. This is what he sees, Balor explained. With the help of our old devices and his powers, it is reflected there, along with the images created within his own mind. You can see his thoughts. You can see his thoughts? Bress asked in wonder. Only if he wishes it. The image steadied further now, as if the being were coming to a fuller consciousness. Then the lipless slit of mouth parted, moved back from the blackened stumps of teeth. And there came to them, hollowly, as if amplified within the cylinder, a horrible whisper.
So, Balor, you have finally brought Bress to me,
it said. Bress looked at the black giant. Who is this being? How does he know me?
I am not Jen,
came the raspy, horrible reply. Bress's head jerked back to that wasted face. Motjen? He cried in astonishment. But you are dead. You must be dead.
I am alive. Alive if you call this living nightmare that entraps me life.
I have heard of you, Ruodon said in awe. You were one of the high druids in the old time. But something happened to you. No one speaks of it.
I tried to help the Danons. That was my crime.
The voice wheezed out, the tone shifting from a soft hiss to a harsh rattle.
For that I was nearly destroyed and my memory erased by my own people.
What did you do? The boy asked, his curiosity overcoming his aversion to the grotesque being. The image of Balor, Ruodon, and Bress faded, replaced by others in a swiftly moving series, rushing by so quickly that the watchers could scarcely identify them. There were some tantalizing brief views of an extraordinary glittering land and vast glowing cities as the dry husk of a voice spoke in wistful tones of distant memory.
For many years my people lived in the 4 cities of Tir Nanog, helped and strengthened by the people of Queen Lanu. The others were happy with the kindness we were shown, like puppies, fawning at a master's heel. But I...
The faint voice took on a stronger tone, as if some ancient will was reinforced by the memory.
I wanted much more. I saw the power that could be gained by using the magic of Tir Nanog. I knew that it could be wrested from those weak and passive beings. I plotted for years to take control, learning all the skills I could, stealing the deepest secrets of magic from Danu's highest druids.
At this, the images on the wall steadied to reveal a brief but starkly etched image of a sharp-featured man at work in a vast cavern of a room. Round him, fires flickered beneath vats and beakers of bubbling liquids, sending colored, coiling streams of smoke into the air. Strange objects, bits of beasts, and birds and even men were piled upon the table where he worked, feverishly mixing ingredients in a copper cauldron.
Soon, Mathchen went on, I became strong enough to rival them all in power. But when I finally struck, when I finally moved to seize use those isles, it was by my own people that I was stopped.
There came another jumbled montage of images, this time of shifting forms and flashing weapons. This changed quickly to a view of two men bursting through a doorway. Though they appeared much younger than he knew them, Bress still recognized the massive warrior and the tiny, bright-robed Druid.
That is the Dogda and Findgol,
he said in astonishment.
Yes, they were the ones who thwarted me. I escaped them and managed to lead the Magic Isles, but Danu sent her powers after me.
Another scene flickered across the wall at this. It was a confused blur of crashing seas, wind-blasted clouds, and lightning ending abruptly in an explosion of light that wiped the picture away. The lighted wall faded into a blackness, and then slowly the image of three watchers in the room came back into view. Math Jen's voice went on, but very weakly now, as if the effort to recall this harsh memory had sapped its energy.
They thought then that they had finished me, it said, that I was dead. One of our ships found him floating in the sea,
Valor said. Picking up the tale, he was burned and broken, barely alive. He would have died soon if my people had not returned him here. What is this place? Bress asked, looking around him. It was meant for the use of our physicians, Valor supplied. To treat and heal our people. Once, long ago, these devices would have regenerated him. But now, with the aid of his own powers, they only manage to sustain his life.
Yes, my life,
the Druid said with a renewed strength, gained from a pride in the single victory.
I am still alive, and my mind is still my own. Through it, my powers are still intact.
The knowledge of magic I took from Tir Nanog can still be used, and I will use it to help the Fomor achieve the one end that we both seek. The complete destruction of the Daedanon race. With his intention thus stridently proclaimed, Math Jen's voice again lost much of its energy, reduced to little more than a soft rustling. Its next words were once more addressed to the visitors.
Now, what is it that you seek of me? I feel a certain urgency in you.
Math Jen, we have need of your powers, Valor said. You told me of the prophecy. You helped me discover Lou's hiding place. Now you must help me deal with him. He intends to save the Daedanon cause.
So he plagues you again.
And how will he do these things? He knows of a magical cauldron that can restore full strength to the Daedanons. Ruidon supplied. And he will use the riders of the Sidhe to warn every settlement that they must host.
What are the riders of the Sidhe?
The spider-like being hissed.
What are these riders of the Sidhe?
They are a company of mystical warriors, the voice said. But not men, at least not living men. They move with the speed and fury of a fierce wind from the sea. He says that they will sweep him round Ire in only a few days. I've seen these warriors myself, Bress put in. Lou brought them when he appeared at Tara to help drive me out. They are a strange and terrible force, deadly fighters that seem unkillable.
As Bress spoke, the image of himself, his son, and Balor on the wall began to fade, replacing it with a blurred image of a troop of men, not solid beings, but like the substance of sunlit silver clouds pushed by a powerful wind, sweeping over green meadows.
I see them, Mahogany said. They have a powerful aura of energy, but I sense that they are not totally invulnerable. There are forces that even they cannot withstand. Then, as quickly as it had come, this image faded too, and that of these three, grouped by the cylinder, returned. Tell me more, boy, the soft, sibilant voice urged. What else have you discovered about this Lou? Tell me everything you know about him, about who he is, where he comes from, what he is. There's little enough to tell, Ruadon said regretfully. He appeared from nowhere to help the Daedenons. He's revealed nothing about himself except that he is the son of Sion, the one, the prophecy said, would lead the Daedenons to freedom and destroy the Fomor power. The grating voice of Balor finished. Yes, we know well enough about the prophecy. The son of Sion. The voice of the wasted Druid mused. And another scene imposed itself upon the lighted panel. It was only a brief flicker. A scene of a warrior being cast onto the rocks of a sea-swept beach by the massive hand of Balor. And then the image of Mahogany's vision was gone again. But Sion had no powers like this boy Lou, he said. Where have they come from? You must have some idea of their source. Some say he has the help of Danu herself. The son of Bress offered hopefully the Leofael that he brought to Tara to proclaim the true High King was from the city of Pholias in Tir Nanog. Danu swore that she would never interfere in Ayat. The hoarse whisper replied, he has some other help. Now think, boy, think. There must be something else, some bit of information you have learned. I don't know, Ruadon said with some desperation. He searched his mind again and this time came upon a notion. It might be he is somehow linked to Mananan Maklir, he suggested timidly. Mananan? The Druid's voice fainted, then grew stronger, fueled by new interest. Why do you say that? Because this magic cauldron that Lou intends to use is in Mananan's Isle. Ruadon explained. He is sending a party to fetch it back to Ire. What is in this party? Balor asked. The Dogda, Morrigan, Angus Og, and a strange character called Gila Decair, along with the High Druid Fin Gold. So many of my old friends. The being in the web hissed thoughtfully. And Mananan Maklir? Balor's iron voice rattled. Is that sorcerer somehow involved in this? That nuance who plagues my ships with his monsters and fogs and calls himself a sea god. Tell me, Mahogany, what do you see? Once more the image of the room faded and new scenes formed, but they were shifting, foggy, and unclear.
There were glimpses of an isle of rolling hills, of a great mound of silver warriors contending on a plain, all flowing together like the water in a stream. It is his isle, you see, the Druid said, but it is hard. My powers are being blocked. He shrouds himself from my vision as he shrouds his isle, and I sensed an even greater force behind his. The images became a flood of colors that swirled and drained away. They left behind the picture of the room and its occupants. Still, I was able to sense that this place of his has some value to Lou, and that these riders of the She come from that isle, Math-Jen told him. Yes, Valor, I think that it is time we learned a great deal more about this Mananan. But what about me? Asked Bress. It will take days for those mindless Pomor beasts you've exiled to Ire to be organized into a useful army. If Lou and the others complete their missions, forces from the tower may have to join us to ensure a victory. No, Balor rumbled. You know my decision. Balor is right, the being in the web rasped. To send the tower forces is unnecessary. There are other ways to make it certain that you will win. There are ways to end this foolish uprising and leave the Day-Danons nearly leaderless. Easy prey for your army. What are these ways? Bress asked, clearly skeptical. It is quite simple. The image on the wall narrowed suddenly, seeming to shoot forward so that Ruidon's startled face filled the picture. The boy I sense has a map. I have, Bress's son admitted, pulling the etched fragment from his tunic. The image on the wall shifted to it, showing the fine lines scratched upon the pottery. You see, Balor, the Druid said, with that, and with the charts in this tower, you can trace the exact routes their warriors will take. They will be alone and far from help. They can be destroyed. Without them and their success, the Day-Danons are finished. The prophecy is finally ended, and I have my revenge. Even alone, the Dogda and the Morrigan will not be so easy to kill, Bress said, and my forces can't move quickly enough to catch them. Balor must help you if he wishes to keep from committing more of the tower's forces, Math-Jen replied. He must provide you with the means to reach them and see them destroyed. What about Lou? Asked Ruidon. With these riders of the She, he'll surely be even harder to stop. They may be supernatural beings, but I believe a way can be found to deal with them, the Druid said. Lou's mission can be stopped. Destroying the boy himself may be more difficult. You have doubts that it can be done? With all your powers? Balor asked, the voice touched with an odd note of interest. The prophecy, Balor, Math-Jen said bluntly. If he is fated to fulfill it, you are powerless. Your prophecy doesn't make the future, Balor replied. It only warns us of possibilities. They can be changed. Still, if the boy survives and is captured, have him brought here, Math-Jen suggested. There may be other ways to deal with him, and more we could learn. I'll do as you wish, said Balor, but I'll take no chances on his escape again. And this Mananan, added the figure in the web. He too cannot be treated too lightly. He may be dangerous. His powers of the sea may be real ones. Mananan Maklir, I will see to myself, Balor promised. The skeletal druid's scarred mouth pulled into a ghastly smile. The hoarse whisper came softly, chilly, like a winter wind blowing fine, hard snow across the ice. I am content. Now please leave me to rest. Obediently, Valor moved his massive hand across the lighted panel once again. The light faded, and the being slipped back into an unnatural twilight where the stars were tiny, winking, colored lights. A rising scream of metal upon metal echoed in the caverns of the cut stone below the tower. From the depths of a square pit, a platform lifted upward, carrying the huge objects slowly toward the light. As the floor of the moving platform reached a level with that of the storage area, the shrill whine died away. The platform jerked to a stop, and dozens of gray uniformed men moved briskly forward to surround the two massive things. Shrouded in blankets of heavy cloth, the masses, several times a man's size and height and length, were without identifiable form. The only visible portions were enormous, dull black wheels that thrust beyond the covers. There were 2 wheels on either side of each of the hulking things. They allowed the men to easily roll the objects from the platform and across the floor of the storage area, toward the huge open doors that led onto quays. Situl Selmhorn, Valor's chief aide, stood with Bress and Ruadon and watched the activity. His voice was heavy with a clear distaste. These machines were not intended for such uses as this, he said. They were meant to help us restore our civilization on the day we leave this tower. There are a few of them, and they have been carefully stored away for a very long time. It was not meant that they should be used to save the likes of the Pomor Abaya. Bress bridled at the man's superior air. The tower Pomor were always very arrogant and uncaring in their attitude toward their deformed and exiled brethren. Bress had no more love for the disgusting beasts himself, but he did see their value. You may never have a chance to leave your precious tower if the Daedenons are not stopped, he said. You should be grateful you've escaped, giving me more help than this. He put on a haughty manner of his own. If these marvelous things of yours can really move quickly enough to head off the Dagda's party. Samhor reacted to this as if it were a personal insult. He was an orderly, highly disciplined, and fastidious soldier of the Tower Pomor's elite officers' corps. He believed this untainted portion of his race to be far superior in every way to other beings, especially the upstart Daedenons. He saw Bress inferior too, despite the Pomor blood in him. He was a mongrel, an insult to the pure Pomor, a barbarian. With an irritated tug on the tunic of his impeccable uniform, he replied icily to the former High King. Of course, they can move quickly enough. If things go well, they should allow us to destroy this Daedenon band without even engaging the machines themselves. Their power is far beyond your ability to imagine, I am sure. Bress was unimpressed. Just so they succeed. And what about Lu? Math Chen has told us what to do, Samhor said curtly. Those drums are being loaded for that purpose. He nodded to a far corner of the immense storage area where Pomor were loading large metal barrels from a towering stack onto small carts and wheeling them toward the quay. We're planning to use a company of Ireland Pomor for the actual operation, he went on. They know the area, and even they should be able to handle such a simple task. and you avoid risking any more of your own grand lads as well, Press added. That's nothing to do with you, Salmore replied. It is if there are any mistakes, and Lou or the others escape. They will not escape. Our arrangements will guarantee that. Press shook his head. I'm not so certain. Most of the Daytonons are no threat. They are frightened and weak, but Morrigan, the Dogda, and this new champion are dangerous. It's a foolish mistake to underestimate them. I want there to be no chance that you will. Put your fears to rest, the officer told him with proud assurance. No primitive warriors can withstand the forces we will use against them. They looked out across the quay to where the huge and sinister machines were now being loaded onto one of the black ships. Press watched the work with a vague uneasiness. He hoped that Sittel Salmhor spoke the truth. And that is the end of that chapter. And so, and book one. So book two is Desperate Missions. And then the next chapter will be The Missions Begin. But I'm not going to do that right now. I'm going to take a break. Okay, excellent. Kind of did this to take my mind off of all the craziness lately. But it's getting pushed to the next level. Instead. Switch over. Ooh, I know what I brought out with me. I got the Seagull Mahogany Folk. And I gotta grab it, it's back here. Oh yeah. Try to get up. Back in seated position. Oh wow. Yeah. I knew this was going to be a wild year, but wow. Getting started early. Dark clouds overhead, trouble on the wind, in a troubled time, you know that it's almost here. You hear it on the chime. Yeah. Stop on a dime, they say you know. Trouble when the dark druid casts his spell, better call on a champion sea. Better call on a champion. Feel it on the web of word. Strange is the nuance I see. I can feel it coming. Oh, wind blow across the land. Sovereignty calls. Yeah. Where the puppet masters pull the strings. Yeah. We all know there'll be a spider in the web watching real close. Yeah. It's got no love, but I do. Yeah. 100% all the way. At first they practice as the webs they weave, you know. Then they practice to deceive you. The truth just is, yeah. Truth just is. Grandmother Volvo. She's coming and shows the window. Grandfather, walk my way. Grandfather, walk my way. In a troubled time you go. I'll be waiting on the edge. Waiting on the edge. Waiting there to see. Distorted the mind. Yeah. Thank you. I shall return.